Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Link to the Past Randomizer League. This is week 3, which is Randomizer. This week we've got a very good race between Qirn of the old Swagga Jackson team, who is currently 3-2, and Darkrid12 of Super Salty Dungeoneers, who are currently 0-5. What do you know about these two teams? My name is Arusta. My co-commentator here is PRD Wong. PRD, what do you know about these two teams?
I would say that Old Swagga Jackson is one of the favorites to make it to playoffs for this division. They are a returning team, Qirn and Walter returning from Season 1. So they're looking to try to clinch that playoffs slot. Super Salty Dungeoneers I haven't really heard of, so we'll have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I believe Super Salty Dungeoneers is 3 of the newer runners here. They are definitely, but I do think it's definitely going to be an interesting race today with Randomizer. You never know what's going to happen because there's all sorts of weird quirks and all sorts of odd things that can set up that can trip up even the most experienced runners.
Yeah, it's still Randomizer. Definitely anything can happen. Runners will get started any second now. We're working on getting Darkrid's stream up. Looks like Qirn is going with his standard old man sprite, which is where the team gets the old in Old Swagga Jackson. And I think Darkrid is going to be using just a standard Link sprite.
Yeah, and for those of you who haven't seen any races yet this week, so the unique thing about Randomizer here is that you can find enemies in any sort of way. The most important thing is that you can see some different boss locations, which we'll talk about as we go through. Both making the Sanctuary start, though Qirn making an interesting play, picking up those bombs, immediately saving quitting, potentially going to front of escape here or down to interesting.
Looks like we have Penned and Eastern Palace today.
Meanwhile, on Darkrid's side, looks like Darkrid is setting up for the Houlihan play where you get 225 rupees very, very easily. Very interesting thing. If you're new to Randomizer or Link to the Past in general, you might not have even realized this existed.
I guess Qirn is taking this fish all the way to the bottle vendor for some money.
Yeah, which is a play, of course, you don't normally see in regular Randomizer, but in Randomizer here, fishes do count a bit as an enemy, so you can find them anywhere, so it does sometimes make sense to just drag them along. One thing to note here, though, is that Qirn, at least the route he's taking, he's not going to be able to check library, so if there's something there, he'll either need to make another trip to see what it is, or potentially just decide to put it off for quite a while, that check.
Yeah, and you do walk slower while carrying an object, so this is a time investment on Qirn's part.
Meanwhile, on Darkrid's side, we're going to see a Lumberjack check here, which looks like just a heart container, so Unless they need to do it for Dark World access, you clearly are not going to do AGA 1 just for that.
Glove and shield on Qirn's side. Let's see what else Kakariko has to offer.
Oh, and there's the mirror in Lost Woods. That's always a nice thing to find early because it can really help your routing once you get to Dark World.
Alright, so finding some health so far. In Randomizer, oh, a pearl on Bottle Vendor. Alright, nice. In Randomizer, safety items are always really nice because you can have some really dangerous rooms and extra heart containers that you might not normally pick up or potions is always a good thing.
Yeah, and especially some of the safety items like Cape and Cane of Burna, which normally are nice but not really required. In something like Randomizer, you can get some brutal rooms where it's just really, really a huge help.
Yeah, one of those rooms that can be really scary was Chicken Hut, which Qirn went through. Today it only had one red guard, so no problems there, but sometimes it's really a mess in there.
Oh wow, and there's Hammer. With Hammer, Glove, and Moon Pearl, we are 4 minutes and 18 seconds in and could go to Dark World.
Wow.
One thing to note here is that we do know there's a mirror in Lost Woods, so for Qirn's sake, it would probably really help if he got that before going to Dark World, because then he could route in stuff as he goes along.
Looks like he's passing it up.
So we have Green Pendant Skull Woods and Pendant Turtle Rock.
5-6 crystals on Thieves Town and Ice Palace.
And a hook shot. So we're 5 minutes in. We've already got Hammer, Glove, hook shot, Pearl, and Samaria.
Usually when you find everything at the beginning of a seed, it means it's gonna dry up really quickly.
Yeah, definitely. And it also means usually your last item you end up looking for forever because there's so many checks you can do. To answer a question in chat, Mir was in Lost Woods in the mushroom spot. Qirn started into Kakariko from the south, so got his Glove, Pearl, and Hammer before going up that way. And when he went to the Lost Woods, he went straight to the portal. So it might be a while before Qirn gets that.
He's gonna head into Thieves Town here. Because the boss is shuffled, there is no maiden waiting in the dungeon, and you don't need to bomb open the attic. So Qirn could, if he chooses, go straight to the boss room and see who's waiting for him there.
Yeah, and it's worth noting with Hookshot and Hammer, the only bosses that Qirn cannot do are Trinex, because you need both rods, and then Cold Stare, because there's no fire source to break open the shield.
Yeah, but I wouldn't really want to do a hammer vitreous fight or something on 3 hearts.
Yeah, with 3-heart green mail, basically you can survive 1 hit, I believe.
I don't know if you can even survive 1.
Good patience there by Qirn to just let that slug get out of the way before killing it.
Yeah, this is pretty ambitious, doing Thieves Town with 3 hearts. If I'm expecting Qirn to just take a look to see what the boss is, because the Hellway can be a disaster, really, sometimes.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that right now Qirn also doesn't have any sort of invulnerability items or anything like that, so if it's something like a spike there, it's possible it's completely impossible to clear.
He does get a lamp, which has some extra use in Randomizer. Some of the dark rooms can be really difficult since you can have strong enemies and you can't see them. So at least with lamp, they won't have to worry about that.
It is worth noting here that the blind fight, there is no, when in Randomizer, since blind does not start, lag a little bit before he drops down, you can't really do the script.
Yep. There is a hammer script, but it won't work here. Qirn is gonna, I think, make good use of pause buffering here, just to give him some time to see if any fireballs are headed his way. So touching ahead will do 2 points of damage to him. Nice try.
Yeah, that was a lot of effort, and good use of pause buffering, but when that last phase, when you've got 2 heads plus blind plus all the fireballs going around, there's just not a whole lot you can do.
We'll see how Darkrid fares on his side. Oh, he was so close.
Yeah, if I was counting right, I think Darkrid only needed 1 more hit there.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Qirn is going through escape backwards here.
So we got a rude roller hiding just outside of Link's house.
Let's try this again. Good use of the hook shot there.
Looks like Tier 2 pulls are 10 arrows today. Tier 1 was just hearts.
Yeah, and one thing worth noting here that you're seeing on Darkrid's side is that since Darkrid got the mirror early, whereas Qirn did not, Darkrid is going to be able to include a lot of things and get a sword out of it. Very nice. That Qirn is going to isolate for a while.
Yeah, sword makes a lot of bosses easier. Even though you can beat a lot of them with just hammer, a lot of times sword is just so much nicer. And already you can see how Darkrid is able to route in some checks pretty efficiently using mirror. Mini Moltorm empty usually means that these shadows are hanging around. And a lot of times, even when they're not visible, you can still hit them with things like hookshot and bomb. You don't have to wait for them to come back out.
Yeah, and the other nice thing to note is that in this version of the Randomizer, they are not shuffling enemy health, but even in versions where enemy health is shuffled, hookshot, since it one-shots them, I think does still one-shot them even if they give bonus health. So that's a nice thing to know for other modes.
Yeah, in those kinds of modes, hookshot is always a really nice find. It can one-shot a lot of different enemies.
Qirn checking the stun prize there and finding it's pretty much nothing. Single rupee, so no one's going to use that. But it does make sense to check it, especially in something like Randomizer, because if it ends up being a fairy or full magic or even sometimes a heart, can really help save you in some dungeons.
So another thing you can do with a fish is throw it in water and it will give you a random prize. And today it's just a heart. Qirn gonna spend a little time farming for Zora money here.
Which is an interesting play, because there's no flippers yet, and while you can fake flipper, in Randomizer it can often be kind of a worrisome play, because you have no idea what might be waiting for you.
Yeah, especially if you get a red guard walking on the water, they're pretty much impossible to avoid since they're so fast. In this case, however, Qirn can activate his water walk, so he'll be able to move faster than just doing a regular fake flipper. Although he didn't actually do it this time. He's just gonna go with the regular fake flipper.
And one thing to note here, since Darkrid does have the mirror, Darkrid will be able to routing catfish very efficiently here, whereas Qirn, by the time he comes out and goes through Zora, he's going to basically isolate catfish and have it completely alone. So Darkrid's mirror again paying off here. Well, would have thought so.
Yeah, I would have liked to see Darkrid do a quick Zora area check. He could even do some sort of splash deletion to be able to check Waterfall Cave if the enemies are safe. Oh, I see. So Qirn saved his water walk for the route to Zora.
Ooh, now that is a nice find, knowing that you can get free fairies anytime you want them from the Waterfall Fairy, or once they get the 5/6 crystal from the Pyramid Fairy. That is something you don't always see in regular rando, but makes a lot of sense in something like Randomizer, where getting free potions or free fairies can really help you out.
Yeah, although Pyramid Fairy could be holding something different. A single rupee from Zora today. What a steal.
Meanwhile, Darkrid's northern routing through the Dark World here has not rewarded him with pretty much anything of use thus far.
We'll get a little high five from the runners here. And they both can read now.
Okay, and it looks like Qirn is, now that he has boots, going to check the Aga 1 prize, and then you have to assume he's going to route in Lost Woods here as well. Finally get that mirror.
Yeah, he might even give us a ped check as well. That mirror might weigh heavily on his mind. I mean, he's got to assume that his opponent got it right at the beginning of the game, so he's going to be wondering what Darkrid has that that Qirn passed up.
Yeah, and even that extra heart container is always nice to have in something like Randomizer.
So we have a bunch of Light World dungeons open, including all of Death Mountain. But looks like the runners are more interested in doing other things here. It's good to just note that you don't need bow to finish Eastern Palace, because the enemies are shuffled, so those Igors aren't going to be there.
Yes, however, you do still need bow for pod because that statue still exists. And that statue does require bow.
So as typical with seeds that give you a lot of early progression, the runner's finding a bunch of different paths to take. Darkrid going up Death Mountain to see what's up here. Qirn doing more overworld checks, but heading into Hyrule Castle. I believe we have not found the map yet, so there should be 2 items left.
Correct, because Qirn did find the key in the back of Escape, so... And Darkrid getting one of the nicest safety items for something like Randomizer, finding that cape, which is always something you're happy to find in Randomizer.
Paradox Cave, or at least the upper portion, not really holding much. So far it's just been the cape up here.
Yeah, meanwhile, Qirn going through all of Escape for, I believe, just the shovel, which may or may not lead to anything.
I think they had the shovel from before somewhere. So east side of Death Mountain, empty except for a very nice cape.
Looks like Qirn trying to figure out whether to do the Agina before Desert or Desert first. Looks like going to Desert first, which does make some sense, because even if you end up not being able to clear it because they have no fire source, you can at least get everything in the front and then do the rarely seen but fairly useful exit through the right exit if you need to. Want to route in Agina afterwards.
I gotta imagine in this case he is gonna check the boss though. So we have another sword on Ether Tablet.
Yeah, unfortunately, you need one more sword before you can even get that sword. But that is good information to know, because even if you get that last sword late, it would still, it's enough, the Master to Tempered upgrade is enough an upgrade that you might go for it, or if nothing else, you'd get it before Ganon Tower if you're still on Master Sword at that point.
Yeah, with Mirror, it's always really easy to get.
Meanwhile, Tower of Hera being filled with guards this afternoon.
Well, it looks like Desert Palace is the answer, as Qirn finds Mitts as his second item.
Yeah, which will work out nicely for Qirn there, because it means when he goes up to Death Mountain, we know East Death Mountain is total garbage, but he'll be able to do both Light and Dark Death Mountain at the same time. Whereas Darkrid's going to presumably make 2 trips up.
This is a hard fight on Darkrid's side, doing Vitreous up in Tower of Hera. You can go for this safe strat of just doing spins with Fighter Sword. It'll take a while, but definitely a lot safer than breaking out the hammer. Darkrid's gonna break out the cape, but it will only last for just a little bit. Meanwhile, Qirn finding a cold stare in Desert Palace. We can't kill quite yet.
Ooh, Qirn almost menuing down to that kill function there.
Alright, Darkrid. Got a couple hammer hits against the big eye. This is a tough fight. But he looks like he's got a good rhythm here.
Good rhythm and very nice use of that Mold Orm hole to force Vitreous to always approach in the exact same spot. So at 32 minutes, we have the first crystal on the board for Darkrid.
And I wasn't quite keeping count, but looks like there's still one more item in Hera.
which Darkrid is going to leave there. Because Darkrid did have, when they open up the menu there, they had both map and compass and the small key. So yes, there is an item in Hera Basement, and Darkrid says, nope, not this time.
Alright, as the runners kind of retrace each other's footsteps, a little bit of background about them. Qirn participated in the main tourney. He did qualify for groups in 64th place, but did not make it out of groups into brackets. On the other side, Darkrid did participate in the Challenge Cup, and I believe he did make it to brackets, but didn't get out of the first round. Both runners have been doing a good job at the boss fights. If you've liked what you've seen so far, please give them a follow.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing to point out here is that as Qirn continues to make this climb, we'll be doing Vidi without a sword, because hasn't been to the Cave 45 yet. But Qirn does have one fairy in a bottle, which might help bail them out, whereas Darkrid did not have anything like that.
Yeah, we didn't see Darkrid break out any bombs, but a bomb can be an effective way to get a bunch of damage in by hitting multiple small eyes at the same time. Yeah, you can hit the eyes from the back. Kind of protects you from the lightning of the main eye. But this is definitely a very hard fight. Sword is much safer. You can already see Qirn's gotten close to being hit a couple times.
And that fairy paying off for Qirn here.
Good job at getting multiple hits in there with the small eyes. Usually you don't want to stay in one position for too long because the small eyes go straight for where your position is, so if you just stay there, they will hit you eventually.
Yeah, and Qirn getting into that same nice rhythm. Very nice hammer fight by Qirn there. I mean, both runners had a very good Vidi.
Better than I could have done, for sure.
And Darkrid is going into Desert Palace, which is where we know he's going to find his mitts. We'll see Qirn when he left Desert Palace after Landmo's just save and quit. We'll see if Darkrid shows any interest in seeing what Agina holds today. Qirn putting that boomerang to very nice use there in Tile Room. Missed the coffee break, so has to, do some normal stuff. And only 50 rupees in the basement there, so fortunately Darkrid's play is not going to hurt him.
Interesting to note that we haven't found any medallions yet. Those can also be very useful in a lot of these difficult rooms.
Yeah, and the nice benefit here that Qirn's going to have with having mitts when Qirn comes up here is that he will be able to do some nice carrying of the undead chicken there. Appreciated. Qirn will be able to do the Dark Mountain checks at the same time, whereas Darkrid is going to have to make a separate check, and having already cleared East Light Death Mountain for nothing might put that off for a while.
Darkrid's gonna get this bad news of a cold stare over here.
And Darkrid also choosing to save and quit, so looks like we might not be seeing Agina for a while.
Yeah, sometimes you just kind of muscle memory into just saving and quitting and forgetting that there was a check outside. Because sometimes you see an enemy like that over there and you just get so disgusted, you're like, it's time to go somewhere else.
Yeah, definitely. And especially since it's Crystal, so you know that the fact that it's one of the two bosses you can't beat means you have to go back there just for that boss.
That looked like bow and foot burrs on Qirn's side, and Darkrid is hot on his heels.
Yeah, at this point they are pretty much tied up.
And Qirn finding his first sword in Hookshot Cave at 42 minutes in. He's got to be happy to see that.
Yeah, one thing that that will help Darkrid when Darkrid gets it in just a minute is that can then go get that tempered off the ether tablet right here, rather than having to make a separate trip for it or go through a lot of the game with Master Sword. Looks like Qirn's going straight for the Swamp Palace play here. Which is a clearable crystal. Well, potentially a clearable crystal. There could still be a Trinex up there, or a second Cold Stare.
Yep, always a good idea to be going for crystal dungeons. The other one that they could do is Pod. Darkrid making a beeline for that nice tempered sword.
Yeah, which makes a ton of sense, because, I mean, especially with how much of the game you have to clear still, it's going to make a lot of his dungeon routing, and depending on what kind of enemies he finds, a lot nicer and safer. Darkrid chopping down all those bushes. One thing to note there, I assume Darkrid was probably going for hearts or a fairy, is that I believe it's just the north, south, east, and west ones which have it, not the diagonal bushes.
Yep. Interesting that he did not go for Spike Cave. I guess he felt like he didn't have quite enough hearts. I feel like it, let's see, Cape and no magic extension. Yeah, it would have been tough.
It would have been tough. I think if you'd done the hook shot for the first part of it to get quicker, and then been very good with your boots usage, and cape usage, you probably could have done it, but it would have been tight. To answer a question in chat, the other two swords, Qirn did not have mirror when he went through the Dark World the first time, and one of them is on K45, which is the second sword needed to open up the Ether Tablet. And Ether Tablet has the third sword.
And we're going to see one of the newly legalized glitches here on Qirn's side. We did find a map and a compass already in Swamp Palace, so this is there's good value in checking out left side.
Yeah, and one thing to note is if you're going to do Diver Down in the spot where Qirn just did it, you do have to do it. You have to do it the very first time, because if you go to back first, then you have to get that key before you flood it.
And here we see one of the surprises that Randomizer can throw at you. Wallmaster tried to grab Qirn. So some rooms you can get really set back a lot by having a sudden Wallmaster come in and grab you, take you back to the beginning of the dungeon.
Yeah, definitely. There's been in the League Discord under the Clips channel, there's been a few Wallmasters like in Ganon's Tower, so you have to redo the entire climb, or places like that where it just really, really kills you. And Randomizer can also sometimes be super rude, where you get hit by an enemy into a Wallmaster.
Yeah, that's the most common way it happens at the top of Ganon's Tower, because it's just the timing works out perfectly. If you get hit, you get usually will get knocked right back into where the Wallmaster was trying to grab you. And the other really bad one is at the bottom of Ice Palace. If you're quick at it and the Wallmaster will come in right as you're in the middle of lifting up the big rock to go to Cold Stare, and there's nothing you can do about it except just watch it fall down and grab you.
Yeah, definitely. One thing to note there is we saw the second diver down, which the nice benefit of doing it there is that you get to do it, you get to open those two chests, you save yourself the pushing cutscene, all that, so it is very nice.
Yep, very good time save.
And Darkrid just flooded the keys, so I think Darkrid is going to do the diver down themselves.
Qirn did find the fire rod in the waterfall chest, so this was a good play by both runners. See a different method of doing diver down. Darkrid used the Cane of Samaria to help him, whereas Qirn was using the bombs.
Yeah, from what I understand, the Samaria method is usually considered to be slightly easier to set up, but of course you have to have Samaria and magic, and you don't necessarily have Samaria every time. So if you're going to learn one, it's really good to learn probably both of them, or at least the bomb strap, because it's very rare you'll get here and won't have any bombs.
Looks like Qirn's gonna take his new fire rod and head straight for another crystal dungeon, which is Ice Palace.
Yeah, and how do those fire bars even work in the water like that?
I believe they just hit you. So I'm not 100% sure, but I think those fire bars do not respect any sort of layers. So if they're on the top layer and you're on the bottom layer, for example the first rooms of Thieves Town, they will still hit you.
Fair enough, good to know. And wow, now that's a nice place for a fire bar and a little spark there too.
You can time it on the bottom when where the spark is traveling to the right. You can follow it and not get hit by it. Darkrid's got to be careful though. He is running low on health.
Qirn setting up for the icebreaker glitch here, which y'all see in just a minute, makes you sort of go through the wall like this. And for those of you in chat who aren't familiar with it, just like that, the icebreaker glitch, it looks intimidating, but it's not as precise as it seems. And the nice thing is, once you set that Samaria block, you don't need to, retrying is free.
Yeah, I didn't see him switch the crystal switch beforehand. So he is gonna need to find the big key, I believe, in order to get to the boss. Or maybe he didn't, I missed it.
I missed it as well, so I don't know, but Just to toss out, Darkrid had a very nice Helmasaur fight there as well.
Mushroom is our second item here in Ice Palace.
And our tracker confirming that he did not hit the switch, but we just saw that Qirn does have the big key, so it won't be an issue.
Yeah, Icebreaker is a relatively new glitch, so there's still some debate as to what's the best way to route Ice Palace in various situations. So it looks like Qirn has decided that in this case where he's full clearing the dungeon, it's fine to not waste extra time hitting that crystal switch.
Yeah, and it is worth noting that the general consensus, even though people are still sort of learning the routing, is that if you can do Icebreaker, it's usually faster in pretty much every scenario, outside of some very, very unique stuff where the key layout works out in the exact way, and you don't have hammer and, you know, a couple other things.
This is a fiery looking room here. Alright, this anti-fairy in this room is always very annoying. You can get trapped into the spot that you want to be. Looks like it's not going to bother Qirn today.
And it's a Mothula, so the fact it doesn't have full magic isn't going to hurt too much. Can use it for the fire rod, but no issues there. Very nice hammer moth there.
So that's a third crystal, a 5/6 crystal for Qirn. We only found mushroom in here.
Meanwhile, Darkrid looks like having a bit of trouble getting the setup for the Icebreaker glitch. The one trick here is that you want to go, I believe, like 1 pixel out there. And there you go. Very nice. Even when you take some time to set it up like that, it is still probably a noticeable time save over doing the dungeon the normal way. So, makes a lot of sense to keep going at it.
Yeah, as Qirn's gonna continue on to Pod for another crystal dungeon. He kind of lucked out with Mothula being there. In Randomizer, you do want to keep an eye on your magic so that if you run across Cold Stare, you are able to break his shell. And a lot of times, that's why it's nice to just visit the potion shop, pick up some blue goo every once in a while, so that you don't run into those kinds of problems.
Yeah, definitely. The unfortunate thing for our runners right now is that without flute, there's going to get that blue goo is kind of big time loss.
Yeah, it's definitely a judgment call. I mean, it's a big time loss if you get to the bottom of Ice Palace and have to come back. Alright, no annoying enemies in the way of Kiki today. Taking a fall here because of this spark that came around and grabbed him. And a quick and easy Mothula fight on Darkrid's side for his third crystal as well. I would say, in general, as they go through this seed, Qirn seems to be doing a slightly better job of keeping his health up, meaning he's reacting nicely to the different enemies that are being placed. So I think the execution advantage I would give slightly to Old Swagger Jackson at this point.
Yeah, I would agree, though I would note that even though Darkrid is taking more hits in dungeons, thus far he's doing a good job in not letting it affect him and not having him do unfortunate deaths much. So
yeah, he is
where it
definitely...
counts, he's doing a good job of.
Yeah, he's getting the job done for sure. You just if it keeps happening to you though, that you're always at 2 or 3 hearts, eventually it's gonna catch up to you.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing worth noting here is that there is another minor glitch in pod here, which Qirn might show off. He tends to be a runner who likes to show off cool tech like this. So what I would guess you'll see in just a minute from Qirn here is just, oh, nope. So what you can do there is there's a glitch where you can sort of almost teleport up those stairs and run through the crystal switches even if they're up.
This is not an uncommon sight on this collapsing bridge. You can get big spikes, small spikes going side to side, anti-fairies, chain chomps, and Qirn wisely breaking out the cave.
Yeah, absolutely. Meanwhile, on Darkrid's side, dealing with the great scam of Zora, pay $500 for $1 back. Darkrid heading east here, so probably going to make the same play Qirn's making here for pod and then potentially Eastern as well, because there are up to 3 more items in Eastern, even though it is a pendant dungeon.
So the only thing I've seen in pod so far was the bombos. Which unfortunately opens up Turtle Rock for us, it looks like.
Yeah, which will be an interesting play, because there are 6 items there, but it's also something where it's a pendant, and no one likes to do it, and they've both already cleared Dark Death Mountain, so if you're going up there, you're going up there just for Turtle Rock, pretty much. And I think Spike Cave we haven't seen as well.
So at this point, the runners are looking for Just flute, and then wondering what that Mire medallion is. They definitely wouldn't turn down Ice Rod just in case they run across a Trinex, and Qirn needs to pick up his second sword.
Yes, which just for those of you who might be joining us late, we have already seen Desert Palace is Cold Stare, so that's a clearable crystal whenever they go back for that, though they've both already cleared all the front. And then Thieves Town we've also seen is, I believe, Blind, so both of those are crystals that you don't necessarily need a Trinex for. So at this point, it's whatever they might find here in Pod, it's the Mire boss, and then potentially running across Trinex at certain points of the Ganon's Tower climb.
We've got Moldorm today in Pod, and he looks remarkably tame for only having 2 eyes.
Yeah, so since we're about an hour in, just to give everybody a reset for those of you who may have joined late, this is the A Link to the Past Randomizer League, ALTTPR League, Season 2. This is Week 3, which is Enemizer, which is why you're seeing all these unique bosses and weird rooms. The 2 runners here, Qirn is of Old Swagga Jackson, who is currently 3-2 in the league, and Darkrid12 of the Super Salty Dungeoneers, who are currently 0-5, but as you can see, are putting on a very good show and pretty much matching Qirn quite well. My name is Arusta, and my co-commentator is PRD Wong. Our tracker today is Irritable Penguin, and you're watching here on Speed Gaming. Also, just in case for those of you wondering about the sword difference, which is the big difference in items thus far, there is 1 sword in Cave 45, which Qirn did not get because he did not have the mirror the first time he went to Dark World, whereas Darkrid did. And then that sword leads to being able to get the second sword, or excuse me, tempered off of the Ether Tablet, which Qirn has already cleared all of Light and Dark Death Mountain except for Turtle Rock and Spike Cave. So it might be a while before he gets back up there, even if he does find another sword somewhere along the way.
Based on what Qirn has left, I gotta say that the Smith sequence probably looks pretty tempting to him at this point.
Yeah, the Smith sequence, and then I was not counting items in Thieves Town, but I think there are at least 2 left. And that is a crystal that they both struggled with. They both got blind to the second phase and weren't able to finish it off, but have a lot more equipment now than when they went there before with, I believe, 3 or 4 hearts.
Nothing so far in Eastern, but we have the last item on the boss here.
Yeah, and for those of you in chat sort of wondering about things, it is worth noting that unfortunately chat's favorite meme, the Ped Seed, just has a little bit of love today. So they may end up clearing extra pendants, but it won't be for Ped.
And this is another room that can get kind of crazy, but Qirn's not having that much difficulty with it.
And there is that ice rod, which really makes that gamble pay off for Eastern Palace, because now you can effectively clear any boss you want. Basically, at this point, Qirn is just looking for Flute, potentially a medallion, and then right now, that second sword, which we know is in Cave 45, but Qirn does not. Qirn going straight to blind to get some revenge here. With a lot more hearts, red mail, and I believe Qirn even still has a fairy in a bottle. This should be a lot easier than the unfortunate death that Qirn took the first time.
So that is his 5th crystal, and it does open up the pyramid if he wants to take the blacksmith chain all the way to there.
Yeah, looks like Qirn is going to do the South Dark World loop here, probably doing dig game first and then maybe drag purple chest all the way around, which would be nice because that would be the sword that Qirn really needs.
And if I'm not mistaken, we'll probably get to see that shovel check that we got from Ice Rod Cave so very long ago.
Qirn also going to check library, because the first time Qirn went went this way, he was carrying a fish and so could not do anything at the last.
So at this point, Qirn does have the rest of the world open to him. The only place he can't get to is the Mire location because he's looking for the flute. Darkrid picking up his ice rod, and we're seeing Qirn pull out the fake powder.
Yes, which for those of you who aren't familiar with that glitch, basically if you have mushroom but not powder, and you also have Samaria, you drain all your magic, you use Samaria when you have no magic, and you immediately pause, menu over to the mushroom, and it simulates the effect of powder. Its most common use, of course, here is Magic Bat, but you can also use it if you get desperate in a dungeon to produce some powder for an anti-fairy.
Darkrid's gonna do this shovel check for us first with a nice shovel dash to find a single wooden stick.
And picking it up for the memes, always appreciated. Meanwhile, Qirn finally picking up that second sword.
So the answer's not purple chests. We're kind of running out of locations here that are not outside of dungeons. I'm sorry, that are outside of dungeons.
And Qirn finally giving us our first Agina check. And to answer a question in chat, yes, both Qirn and Darkrid did Desert Palace. It actually had mitts, went to the back, and then found a cold stare they couldn't kill, and then just save and quit out rather than mirroring out or death warping out to check Agina while they're there.
I want Qirn saving and quitting instead of finishing up Desert Palace. I want to say that there is still an item at large there. And I look over on Darkrid's side, and he's once again at 1 heart.
Yeah, I think at this point it looks like Qirn is just doing pure item density plays. Additionally, as chat correctly points out, Desert, if Qirn does get the flute somewhere else, it can be routed in with Mire, and you can save yourself a bit of time rather than having to run through the front to get to the back.
So we'll see if Pyramid Fairy has the answer. Didn't quite catch it, but I'm assuming that was not what we were looking for.
I did not catch it either, but shout outs to our tracker, Irritable Penguin, who says that it was a bottle. And at this point, Turtle Rock might be the play, as Chad is asking, because there are still 6 items they can get, and I believe neither runner has checked Spike Cave, so it would really be 7 items if you route it like that.
Yeah, I think the only other play would be Skull Woods, which is the green pendant.
Yeah, and I don't think either runner has even touched Skull Woods, if I remember right. Smart play there by Qirn to pick up some blue goo while he's there. As you mentioned before, in Randomizer, since you can run into weird stuff and weird situations all the time, it's always good to have that safety if you can route it in easily. Meanwhile, Darkrid doing the Smith chain and hammer pegs chain, which Qirn has already done and we know is not really going to pay off for much. Looks like Qirn is going to do some of these West Dark World checks, the Graveyard Ledge, and King's Tomb, which, just for those of you who joined late, Darkrid has already done and there wasn't anything there.
This might be a play by Darkrid to go to Turtle Rock And if so, he'll be the first one. And Qirn's gonna instead go for Skull Woods, so we'll see who finds it, or if it's in Desert Palace.
Yeah, Darkrid definitely having the item density play here, but it is worth noting Qirn will be able to make a lot of these checks more quickly because climbing the mountain like Darkrid is doing takes a surprising amount of time.
It's Qirn's turn to be low on health. Yeah, just that simple act of changing what enemies show up where, and it throws all your muscle memory off.
Oh, and that's a nice spot for that fire bar, too. That is a fantastic place for that big spike, by the way. The exact width of the bridge. And Qirn living super dangerously there, but getting the flute, oof, that is huge for Qirn and really bad for Darkrid.
Yeah,
The one thing that would save Darkrid here is if the Meyer medallion needed happens to be in Turtle Rock. And one thing to note for those of you who are watching the stream very carefully, Qirn didn't actually pick up that green pendant, so presumably he's betting on either getting the medallion in the Meyer shed or already having the medallion. But if it turns out that green pendant's required, you have to think he might be feeling pretty bad about leaving it there.
And it is Ether today, so we are still on the hunt for another item. Not sure why he didn't just go ahead and check Meyer Shed and Checkerboard Cave. It could be right there.
Oh, and there it is! Darkrid now has Ether, but Darkrid has to go clear Skull Woods first. And you have to think Darkrid is going to play out this TR play. Yeah, and so just to answer a couple questions in chat, so Flute, which Darkrid needs to get into go mode, is on the Mothula area of Skull Woods, the Skull Woods boss, who is land modes today, whereas Ether, which Qirn needs, is in Turtle Rock here that Darkrid is going through, and looks like Qirn is going to teleport away from, or Flute away from it.
So when the runners split up, they were both right.
The Darkrid going up to check that ferry before going to the boss here makes a lot of sense, since you don't know what this boss is, and there are still some nasty ones sitting out there, including Vanilla Trinex.
Simultaneous boss fights here. Each one fighting a big giant eye.
So Darkrid looking to go over and check Spike Cave here. Makes a lot of sense because that basically clears off the mountain for him. Oh gosh, and is Qirn going back for that green pendant? Looks like he is.
That's his last thing, so it looks like Qirn might be thinking that if something's in Turtle Rock, he's far behind, so he's just doing every other possible thing available to him. He might even decide to go back to Thieves Town after this.
Yeah, looks like Qirn is making the Thieves Town play. Meanwhile, Darkrid is also doing a dead play by checking the Tower of Hera basement.
Yeah, I think Darkrid has a lot more checks that he's skipped over, so I'm not too sure at what point he will decide to check the back of Skullwoods. I gotta imagine both runners getting a little bit panicky, wondering where that last item is.
Qirn blowing up that floor, probably just out of either muscle memory or just wanted to blow something up. So this is the moment of truth. If Darkrid goes to Skull Woods, that'll really help out. And he's going to Sanctuary.
He has all the medallions now, so he knows he's just looking for Flute.
And looks like Qirn is going to make the correct play here. Go up to Turtle Rock, which at this point, Qirn has pretty much cleared almost everything else, so... They are both going to hit go mode at more or less the same time. Worth noting that Qirn has completed land mode, Desert Palace, which is not land modes, whereas Darkrid has not, but Darkrid has cleared the front, so once he flutes over to Mire, he'll be able to route in the boss there, back of Desert Palace, very easily.
Yeah, also important at this stage to note that Qirn has Butter and Silvers, whereas Darkrid will probably not get those, since the last sword is in Mire Shed, and the Silvers is in Agina's cave.
Yeah, but at this point it is definitely close enough that it is pretty much anybody's game.
So once again, Qirn needs to make his way to Mimic Cave. Darkrid needs to fight the boss here in Skullwoods, which are Landmos, and we'll see who gets to go mode first.
Yeah, at this point, they're definitely close enough that it's really, they're going to hit go mode at close to the same time, and it's really going to come down to execution, both through Mire, which can be sometimes tricky in Randomizer, and then through Ganon's Tower, which who knows what you're getting in Ganon's Tower.
So if my memory serves me right, we have seen one of every boss so far except for Trinex.
We have not seen Trinex, but I believe we have seen 2 Cold Stairs. And Darkrid gets the flute, and so at 1 hour and 40 minutes and 26 seconds, Darkrid is in go mode, plus having to activate the flute, but whatever. Meanwhile, Qirn is going to pick up his Ether Medallion in just a sec and basically enter go mode about the same time. Maybe a minute or so behind, but being ahead by the back half of Desert.
Alright, both fluting to the Mire area.
And so with both runners entering at about the same time, this is, oh gosh, that room. Oof. Look at that entryway. What I was going to say is this is where execution really, really comes into play.
Qirn having some trouble with this last enemy.
So we get the big key early, and since we're already in go mode, the very nice God Mire. Neither runner trying to hover, which makes some sense in Randomizer.
Don't know if either runner set up for spooky, but it's definitely a lot harder in Randomizer when the enemies that you usually rely on are not there. Qirn's mistakenly hitting this switch, I believe. But he realizes it. And here's our second Mothula. Darkrid definitely gained some time here, going through Mire a little bit more quickly than Qirn did.
Yeah, definitely. The nice thing for... Qirn forgetting the switch there. The nice thing for Darkrid here is it's not enough to completely make up for having to do the back half of Desert, but it's enough that it'll really close that gap. At this point, it's definitely close enough that our favorite game, which we're going to start in just a minute, the Ganon's Tower Big Key Guessing Game, can be the make or break for who wins here.
And that is crystal number 7 for Qirn.
So, we will now start the Ganon's Tower Big Key Guessing Game. Get your guesses in chat. So basically, there are 22 locations where the big key can be, 1 to 20, and our number 1 to 22. If you're right, you win internet coolness, and we'll shout you out as the winner.
Yeah, Darkrid just about, I would say, probably about a minute behind, which is total. You could totally make that up, even just in execution. I've seen people lose even like 3 minutes in Ganon's Tower, just doing the climb.
Especially in Randomizer, because even though Qirn has definitely practiced a lot the climb, it is worth noting that in Randomizer, all that practice does not necessarily pay off because it's different from what you normally see.
Darkrid's gotta be careful here on one heart. Takes it down, clutch fight, and that's Darkrid's 7th crystal. He's gonna head up to the mountain right after Qirn.
Yet again, Darkrid living on the dangerous side with boss fights. Has been doing that a lot here, but has done a really good job in, clutching it out. And so, just for those trying to reference, Qirn basically enters right about 147.50 or so.